Good evening, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over my 2023 NFL Power Rankings. Some of you may be wondering where I've been. I've had the busiest summer of my entire life, but I would like to try and get back into making videos for you guys for the season. So as always, I will start off with a power ranking video. For all those of you who don't know, my name is IMAC. I make YouTube videos about sports. I try and be analytical and statistical about it, but sometimes my personal biases get in the way. As you can see, I am a Patriots fan, and today I'm going to be going over my power rankings for this season coming up pre-season. First off, we have the dumpster fire. The dumpster fire starts off every single one of my power ranking videos. I do my videos in tiers, although every team does get a specific rank. In the dumpster fire this season, we have the Cardinals, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, the Colts, and the Texans. Most of these teams are bottom tier teams from last season that have carried over to this year with the addition of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers have dropped down to 31 with the loss of Tom Brady. Tom Brady didn't have a phenomenal season last year, but he kept the Buccaneers afloat in a lot of games that they should have lost, and the Buccaneers will most likely regress to be one of the worst teams in the league coming up this season. The Cardinals are at 32. They were one of the worst, if not the worst team in the league last year, and this year they're starting off with a lot of injuries and a lot of questionable players on the starting lineup. Injuries are not a great way to start the season, and until Kyler Murray can show me that he can do something more impressive with this roster, I think that the Cardinals will stay in most people's bottom spot on the power rankings. At 30, we have the Carolina Panthers. I really think that there's a lot of teams that are between 20 and 30 that can be talented and do have some potential. The Panthers are one of those teams. The reason why I have them all the way down at 30 is simply because none of these players have worked together before, and this is a power rankings going into week 1. Because this is going into week 1, that's why the Panthers are at 30, although I do think that there's a decent chance that they could move up very quickly because they did add a lot of good players such as Adam Thielen. They added some additional pieces at wide receiver. They added, I believe, David Montgomery at running back, although he might be on the line. So they added a very strong running back, and they have a new rookie quarterback. So the Panthers could climb fairly quickly. I'm still skeptical about their defense, but we'll see how it goes. The Colts and the Texans are kind of in the same boat. The Texans have been bad for a few years now. The Colts have just started becoming bad. But they're both around the same area. They both have a very strong running back. They both have mediocre defenses, and they both have some future potential at the wide receiver position. The Texans have Robert Woods and Nico Collins, while the Colts have Michael Pittman and some other decent wide receivers. If their rookie quarterbacks can do well, then they could rise in the power rankings. But right now, before I've seen anything from either of their rookies, they're at 28 and 29. Moving on to playoff possibilities, we have the Chicago Bears, the Washington Commanders, the Los Angeles Rams, the Green Bay Packers, and the Atlanta Falcons. All of these teams, I think, have the potential to make the playoffs, mostly because they're all in the NFC. If any of these teams were in the AFC, I don't think that they'd have a chance of making the playoffs, but in the NFC, the door's wide open. At 27, we have the Chicago Bears. The Bears were one of the worst teams in the league last year, although there's a couple of games where Justin Fields did play very well, especially against the Patriots, one of the top defenses in the league. I think that if Justin Fields can be more consistent next season, then the Bears can improve in the power rankings. I also think that if the defense can be at least somewhat close to what they've been the past few years, as opposed to the horrendous garbage show that the 2022 defense was, then the Bears would be a decent team. Washington is at 26. They were 8-1 last year, so this does seem like a bit of a disrespectful placement for them. I just think that there's other teams that have more potential. I think that Washington, at face value, is probably around 20. But this is the one exception where instead of ranking the team where they are right now, I just don't think that they have a lot of potential to grow. And I think that with a rookie quarterback that we're not really sure how he'll play on the team and some changes in the roster overall, they're going to have a slow start at the very least. And I think that this is one team where having the rookie quarterback is really going to hurt them early as opposed to giving them a potential benefit in the future. So Washington, I think, is going to have a slow start, although I think that they do have potential to move up. I think that they'll have a very slow start to this season. Their defense also did regress last season, so we'll see if it will continue to do that. The Rams are at 25. They were in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Last season, Matthew Stafford was 3-6. The team itself played very poorly for the rest of the year. They had a lot of injury problems, and because of that, they're still down at the bottom. If they didn't have such a bad record with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp playing, I would have them higher. But they really even weren't playing phenomenal with their starters in the game, and everyone's coming back from injury. You don't really know what to expect with a team that's coming back from injury that really didn't play well last year, so I think 25 is a fair assessment. At 24 and 23, we have the Packers and the Falcons. I think these two teams are on an even level playing field right now, but I have the Falcons higher simply because they have more rookie potential. The Packers obviously were an okay team last year. They almost made the playoffs, and now Aaron Rodgers has been shipped off to New York, and Jordan Love is the new quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. I think that Jordan Love could have a pretty decent season with this roster, but they did lose Allen Lazard, which is going to hurt. He's got probably someone that was building rapport with Allen Lazard to some extent, as he was the wide receiver 1 last year. But they do have phenomenal running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and their defense regressed a lot last year, which I think is one of the reasons why I have them down at 24. At 23, we have the Falcons. The Falcons obviously have never had a good defense ever, but I think that they did make some adjustments, which I think could be positive for them. And I think that the Falcons' defense was trending in the right direction statistically towards the end of last season, as well as the addition of their brand new running back and their brand new rookie quarterback. I think that the Falcons could potentially get into the playoffs in the NFC, and they could potentially win their division as they are in the weakest division in the league. The next category is Derek Carr. We have the New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders. I have the Raiders at 21 and the Saints at 22. The Raiders are above the Saints because the Saints are the team that has Derek Carr, and the Raiders have Jimmy Garoppolo. I personally, as anyone who's watched the channel before, am not a Derek Carr fan. I think that Derek Carr never has at any point in his career met up to the hype, and I think that people are going to continue to realize that he just is not a consistent quarterback that can win in the NFL. Last year, he had everything going for him. He had all of the weapons in the world. I told him to prove me wrong, and he did not in any capacity. It was a mid-season by him. The Raiders didn't do very much, and Davante Adams was the only saving grace of his season. Now he's on the Saints. I do think that the Saints team is built for success, even though they have also proven me wrong in that prediction. I've said every year the Saints team is built for success. Every year Michael Thomas doesn't return for injury. They get more injured and more injured and more injured and more injured and lose games. So whether Derek Carr or Jameis Winston gets the job, if they stay healthy, again, I think that they'll be a decent team and will most likely win their division. But if they don't stay healthy, then the Falcons will probably take it. As for the Raiders, they're in the toughest division in the league. I have them at 21, second toughest, third toughest. They're in the third toughest division in the league. I have them at 21 simply because I don't know what their team would look like with Jimmy Garoppolo in place of Derek Carr. I think it will be slightly better, but I don't really know if it will be a noticeable difference. So that's why I have them at 21. The next category is teams that are most likely to be 9 and 8. We have the Browns, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Titans, and the Broncos. I probably should have the Patriots at 20 and the Browns at 21, but I'm biased, so I have the Patriots at 19. I have the Browns at 20 because Deshaun Watson hasn't played in 2 years. He played a couple games last year. He didn't really play that well, but obviously he's coming off of injury. He'll have a full offseason of playing, and he'll most likely be a little bit better going into the season. The Browns overall have a decent roster. It's not as good as it has been at points in the last couple of years. And so far, the Browns, I've never really predicted the Browns to be amazing, although a lot of people have said that they're amazing at times. Until they can prove to me that they are a top-tier team, I'm not going to have them much higher than 20, because 20 is the borderline of being considered a mediocre team. I think that they are a mediocre team and that Deshaun Watson needs to take that first step as a Brown before they can be put into a higher tier. I have the Patriots at 19 for the exact same situation. I think that the Patriots roster is built for success. I think we'll have a top 5 defense again this year. I think that the offense has added significant pieces in Juju Smith-Schuster and Ezekiel Elliott and Mike Gesicki to be a top 7 team in the AFC. I think the Patriots could potentially make the playoffs in the AFC. But Mac Jones needs to prove it. Mac Jones needs to play well, and he needs to show that he's a good quarterback with an actual real offensive coordinator with Bill O'Brien. Because we haven't seen him play yet this year, that's why the Patriots are at 19. They probably should be lower, but I'm biased. At number 18, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are always 9-8, so they're just going to continue to be 9-8 unless Kenny Pickett actually really does a good season. He improved at the end of last year, so I think that there is potential for him there. The Titans, they also have at 9-8. They started, I believe, 7-1 last year, and then lost like 7 or 8 games in a row. They started 7-3 and lost 7 games in a row. That's not a great way to end a season. I think that they'll obviously bounce back from that. Derrick Henry's a great player. They added DeAndre Hopkins. But right now I have them at 9-8 for the same reason as the Patriots, quarterback. And once again, with the Broncos, quarterback. All of these teams have great rosters on paper, but we need to see what their quarterback does before they can be boosted any higher than a 9-8 mediocre team. Next category is can't get over the hump. We have the Seattle Seahawks, we have the Minnesota Vikings, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Baltimore Ravens. The Seahawks obviously won the Super Bowl in 2013, but that was 10 years ago. Since then, they have not been able to get over the hump, and they're the longest running team of not being able to get over the hump here out of the current rosters. The Seahawks have transformed a lot, but the biggest addition last year was the addition of Geno Smith and the fact that the defense was actually good. They made the playoffs last year off of tiebreakers over the Lions, and they had shown some spots of brilliance, but nothing amazing or nothing sustainable. I think that Seattle is the weakest team here because they didn't have many consistent weeks in a row. And so they would have some great spots, but it really wasn't leading up to anything. So I have Seattle at 15. 14, 13, and 12 are the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Ravens. All of these teams have been considered a top team in their conference at some point in time over the last couple of years. All of these teams have quarterbacks that people would consider a top 10 quarterback. And they all have very strong rosters, but they just can't win important games. The Vikings obviously lost in the first round last year after going 13-4. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson gets injured every year, and he's never made it past the divisional round. And the Chargers with Justin Herbert have only made the playoffs once in 3 seasons. They tend to finish around 500, and Justin Herbert can't beat good teams. He has done it before. There have been games where he's beaten good teams and other good quarterbacks, but he tends to lose games when he's challenged, such as the Jaguars game. He was up 27-0 or 27 to some insane score, 27-7 maybe, in the first half, and then they lost in the second half because he really just couldn't score the ball, and the Jaguars just went all over them. So, I need to see some success from one of these 4 teams before they can be considered a top 10 team. Next, we have the top 10, which I ordered incorrectly. At number 11, we have the New York Jets. At number 10, we have the Miami Dolphins. At number 9, we have the Giants. 8, we have the Lions. And number 7, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jets are a very strong team from last year that lost Breece Hall and then completely collapsed. Just like the Titans, they started 7-3 and finished 7-10. With the addition of Aaron Rodgers, I think that the Jets have a very bright future, but I can't put them in the top 10 simply because they're the Jets, and I can't believe that they'll be a good team until they prove it to me. So I have them at 11 currently. I have the Miami Dolphins at number 10, I have the Giants at 9, the Lions at 8, and the Jaguars at 7. All 4 of these teams showed a lot of potential last year. Only 2 of them made the playoffs. Only the Jaguars and the Giants made the playoffs. But the Lions almost made it off tiebreakers and won a lot of really, really, really tough games down the stretch. All of these teams have phenomenal offensive potential, but their quarterback situation is the issue. The Jets' quarterback situation is Aaron Rodgers. He's questionable, but he's still Aaron Rodgers. The Dolphins, we don't know if Tua is going to be healthy. We don't know if he'll be able to play consistently as he did at the beginning of last year. With the Giants, I still don't believe in Daniel Jones. Last year, everyone hyped him up because the Giants won a lot of games, but he really didn't have that great stats, and Saquon Barkley really carried the team. With the Lions, Jared Goff is Jared Goff. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And then with the Jaguars, I think that Trevor Lawrence is the most likely of those 4 quarterbacks to be a very strong quarterback this year, no matter who they're against. So I think that Jacksonville is most likely to be consistent, which is why I have them at 7. I split the elite into 2 different categories because I do believe that there are 2 tiers to the elite this year. I think that there's the teams that are very inconsistently amazing and the teams that are somewhat more consistently amazing. We have the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Bills at 6, 5, and 4. The 49ers, obviously, the reason why they're at 6 is because of their quarterback situation. We don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be yet. I believe it will most likely be Brock Purdy, but there's a lot of people in that quarterback room who are young who want a shot. We have Brock Purdy, we have Trey Lance, obviously, and we have Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold most likely won't be getting a job. And I think it'll be Brock Purdy, but we really are not sure at this point. And if there's any question about the quarterback position at the beginning of the season, that could hurt the 49ers to start off the year. At number 5, we have the Cowboys. The Cowboys have not been able to win the divisional round over the last few seasons, but that hasn't stopped them from being a dominant regular season team. Every year I have the Cowboys winning the NFC East, and I possibly will have them winning the NFC East again this year in my preseason predictions. I'm not really sure yet. But the Cowboys are the most consistent team in the NFC East over a significant period of time. But last year with Dak Prescott's injury, they weren't as consistent. Because of that, they are hurt in this year's power rankings. They're starting off at number 5. But if they can show that consistency to start off next year, then they'll quickly move to the top 3. The Bills are at number 4, simply because the other teams have been a little bit more consistent in the playoffs. The Bills have dunked on really bad teams, but they haven't been able to consistently beat good teams in the playoffs, and they haven't made a Super Bowl with Josh Allen. In the elite, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, and we have the Cincinnati Bengals. We have the Chiefs at 1, the Eagles at 2, and the Bengals at 3. The Bengals are number 3 simply because I think that they are the second best team in the AFC, and the AFC is stronger than the NFC. I think that the Bengals are slightly more consistent than the Bills. Even though the Bills' defense is better, the Bengals play very well cumulatively as a team, and they will win the game, even if it's a close game. Even if their defense doesn't play great, if their offense doesn't play great, they'll find a way to win the game. The Eagles are at number 2. The Eagles made it to the Super Bowl last year, so they're number 2 out of respect. Am I sure that they're going to be the number 2 team for this season? No. I think that they do have a phenomenal roster, but I think that there could be teams in the NFC that overtake them. Possibly the Lions, possibly the Cowboys, possibly even... Okay, really only those 2, but I think that the Eagles are going to be fighting with those 2 for the number 1 seed for a long time. And Kansas City is just clearly the best team in the league. They've won 2 Super Bowls recently. They've made 3. Patrick Mahomes has 2 MVPs. Anyone that doesn't say Kansas City is the number 1 team going into the season is kidding themselves. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoy. Hopefully we'll be getting out some more videos coming out soon. In the meantime, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Comment down below what you think. Peace.